Hey, church, we wanted to get together tonight and just share with you some of the reflections we've had about what a year we've had in 2020 with a pandemic and the challenges that brought to each of us as individuals and families, and particularly as a church family. And so I want to start, Steve, if you'd kick us off, just talk about your view of what's been going on since March.
Well, I guess beginning in March, it was quite a period of really trying to adjust to what this was going to be like. I remember thinking, okay, I can work from home for a couple of weeks. I can buckle down, and then about 3 weeks in, I'm like, okay, I've got to get out and do something. I can't just stay here and work and do nothing else. And fortunately, there was a lot of people who really never missed a beat, and I think that's one of the things, praise God for them, because they have done great to keep things moving.
Yeah, I think as elders and ministers of this church, one of the things we realized early on was the importance of staying connected as a church and being very deliberate about that. And so we want to reflect tonight about examples of the many ways that you have taken initiative to really stay connected and to be encouraging to one another, to be supportive of one another. And so, Donovan, if you wouldn't mind, talk about young adults.
Yes, happy to do that. They came to us back toward the end of May, and they wanted to get back together. They were missing each other, and we figured out a way through safety protocols for them to meet together on Thursday evenings. That was the night they chose, in the courtyard, where we could all be on folding chairs and just spread out and talk. And they extended the study of Daniel. They studied James. And then they've taken on social issues. Had Jeff Boyd and Keith Stanglin come in to teach them about many social issues. So we've had a lot. It's been great. What they've done during this time. Still being able to be together, because they needed that. They
really,
still
rolling.
Yes, they really wanted to be together.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Yep.
Steve, I know one of the things that we realized early on in this is the financial stress it put on a lot of families in our community.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about what our church has done to try to help there.
We put out a call initially to the congregation of who of our families need help, who some had lost their jobs, some had been furloughed or cut back, and there were a few families that needed financial assistance. We were able to do that. We extended that invitation out to BCS and their families. We were able to provide some financial support there. And then we became aware of Saturnino Gonzalez and the church, is Iglesia de Cristos, that they had some needs, so we provided some assistance to them. Of course, in that process, we learned about Capital Area Food Bank, and some of us were involved in that, and even making some financial contributions.
And significant contributions.
Yes.
There.
They were.
This church stepped up.
Yeah.
Big
They
time
were,
in our
and it was
community.
through our generous giving that enabled those needs to be met, and they were really critical. I mean, not having a paycheck is a very scary place to be. We also provided support for ADRN, the Austin Disaster Relief Network, because they're in such a great place to be able to help families, and we provided some financial support to them as well.
I wanted to just highlight the importance of our home groups. And, you know, I think we went through a period there early on where our home groups were meeting almost every week. Most of them were meeting in some form. We all learned how to do Zoom together, whether it was share a meal over Zoom or have a great conversation over Zoom, but to just share what's going on in our life, what are our prayer concerns, and have the ongoing support and encouragement of one another. I think that was vital. And I want to recognize the home group leaders for the commitment they made to adjust and accommodate doing things over video. Over time, we've been able to expand that into outdoor settings in some examples. But I think that was vital to keeping our church healthy. And just, I thank everyone that's in home groups and the commitment you showed to be part of that. And most importantly, to our leaders there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really major. One of the things we realized early on is that we had a number of people that were sheltered in place that would be isolated for an extended period of time. People that we really wanted to encourage and support them not being out and being exposed to this virus. And I want to just say thank you to a group of people in this church that took it upon themselves to identify a large number of people that were going to be isolated, and therefore we tried to maintain contact with them through phone calls or emails. We tried to understand if they had needs for grocery runs or someone to go to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription, whatever need they might have, where we could have a socially distanced contact done through service so that those people still remain connected to our church. So thank you to that team that has been and continues to provide that support and encouragement for those that are somewhat isolated. So I really appreciate that. I think the other thing that was key was our adult education that continued throughout this. And so Steve, would you talk to that, how important that was?
Well, just initially to the ministers, to be able to keep our worship services going, our Sunday morning classes going, our Wednesday evening classes going.
With high quality teaching.
Yeah, with
Absolutely.
as we are known for and as we have come to expect. On Wednesday nights, we had a various series that took us through the summer, from Deuteronomy and Titus and Jonah and Proverbs. There were some that spoke about the parables of Jesus, and those were very valuable. Also on Sunday mornings, we went through Acts, 2 Corinthians, engaging questions, Daniel, and the Gospel of Mark. And we want to thank each of those teachers for the time that it took to put that together, and the video, and to be involved, and just the preparation to keep us being fed and to keep us in the Word and to help us to do that. I think of our worship services, how we have not missed a single Sunday of time of worship. And that's pretty amazing.
It is.
To be able to do that live stream and then to do it in person. There's a new team that is developed because of this to do the audio visual, to do the live streaming. And our gratitude to each of you. You know who you are. We thank you for doing what you do to keep us in a time of worship on Sunday morning, to keep us in the rhythm, as Charlie has said, in worship.
I'd like to highlight what Jackie and her team have been doing around children's ministry. If you've not looked at it, go to YouTube and check out the Brentwood Oaks Church of Christ Children's Ministry website on YouTube. It's amazing. Each week, a very high quality lesson was produced in video and pushed out to our young people. They were having Zoom calls, and I bet Jackie can tell us some really interesting stories around things that were shared during those times. But also to the teachers at the elementary and below age that continued throughout this period to create a lesson plan that was developed and pushed out typically on a Saturday evening to parents to share with young people on Sunday morning, to keep that education going, to give them the resources they needed for their young people to continue to learn and grow in their understanding of the Bible and the lessons from that as they develop their own faith. Steve, talk a little bit about youth group and everything that's been going on there.
Well, James has done a remarkable job keeping our kids engaged. He's always been very cautious, and I appreciate that about him. But it wasn't much longer that after the shutdown that we were initiating, he was doing the Zooms with the summit groups. Of course, he was putting out content, as we now say, in Bible classes and to the high school and junior high. But to be able eventually to get the kids in each of the summit groups up here in the courtyard of the church and in properly spaced areas, just for that crucial and critical contact that we're all striving for. And it's so much more important for kids to maintain that connection. In reality, it's not significantly different than what we were doing this time last year, just a little bit different format, which is remarkable.
Yeah. Donovan, talk to us about what's been going on with the mission committee and the work that's being done around the world through our mission work.
Yes. Well, as you know, the mission committee had great plans for this summer. About 20 or so people were going to go to Brazil down to help the Sao Luis team. And they had to change all those plans. And but what they've done is they've actually stepped up for many that there are more needs, and they've been able to do that. We already mentioned Iglesia de Cristo. Many of their members lost their job or had financial burdens, so that cut Saturnino's budget. And so our mission committee stepped up and has funded Saturnino. And so we're partnered with Saturnino again. We were with him many, many years ago, and we have the opportunity to work with Saturnino and Elizabeth with the Iglesia de Cristo. And then the same thing happened in the church in Rio that a gentleman named Jefferson Che, he and his wife Daniela, they are the ministers there at the church in Rio, and it's about 160 member church, and about a third of those members are hearing impaired. And when the oil crunch happened there, many of their members were hurt by that. The people that helped fund that church were hurt, and so they needed some funding for Jefferson Che, and we have partnered with him as well. He is known with our Sao Luis team, and so it's probably about 800 miles or so away from. Yeah. It's a long ways from Sao Luis, but we are partnering with Jefferson Che there in Rio as well. So that's another thing. And I know we were talking about helping people earlier. We've been able to help people in Guatemala too, through Baltimore, there in Guatemala as well. So lots of good things. Lots of good things.
It is
good. You know, I want to highlight a significant work that's gone on among our home builders community. A group of people that typically have young people at home that were not able typically to come up and be part of our public worship yet because of their children or maybe other considerations. Yet that community had planned to go through celebration of discipline curriculum over the spring and summer time frame. A very challenging curriculum based on a book written by Richard Foster. And they have taken upon themselves to create a lesson plan that they have shared among their community, typically coming out on a weekly basis. Thoughts prepared by different members of that group, couples that come together and they work on develop a curriculum and then push that out to the community of challenging thoughts that they had from the reading they did in Richard Foster's book, but also application around what it means to be a young family in Austin, Texas, living a Christian and faithful Christian walk. And so I just really want to recognize those leaders of that group that put that together, but also those that stepped up and prepared curriculum and were a part of making that a process that those members have been able to follow for many, many weeks so far, and I believe it's still continuing today. So really appreciate what that home builder community is doing to remain connected, to challenge and feed one another in the Word.
Well, I'd been questioned by a few members at times about what's going on. And I wanted everyone to know a lot of things have been going on. Yeah. In fact, there's times when I'm kind of shocked all the things that are going on. So it's good. It's encouraging to me to hear these stories. And I think it would be encouraging for everyone, all our members, to know all the things that are going on. So the Lord's work is happening even when we're not doing things the way we normally did in the past. So right. And we're going to keep doing that. So look for opportunities.
Yeah. And unfortunately we're not through this pandemic yet.
That's right.
No, and I think this is a good opportunity also to just encourage each of you that if you see a family in need, to let one of the elders know. If we can provide financial assistance, we have funds to do that. If there's a family that needs something, work done, let's do what we can. Let us know about that. Because this could be, as reported, could be a difficult winter. So I would just urge you to not sit back and wait for this thing to blow over. but to be active, to be prayerful, and to be ready to do God's work in His kingdom.
You know, this pandemic has challenged us to consider, what does it mean to be a church? And I just want to encourage everyone, let's continue to faithfully pursue what God's called us to be as a family here at Brentwood Oaks Church of Christ, and through the Brentwood Christian School community and ministry there. Let's be who we're called to be, and we encourage you to, with ideas or initiatives that you want to take, let us know. We want to be able to know how to support you and encourage you. And then meanwhile, let's minister to one another in ways that we've been doing and will continue to do.
And I would add, you don't have to get our permission to do
That's
things.
true. You got it. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for getting together.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Yeah.